Hello, and welcome to another episode of our Travel for Change interview series. Today, I am here with Allison. Allison participated in our 2024 Courage Community Kilimanjaro program. And for those of you who don't know, our Travel for Change programs are our programs where we include life coaching for 3 months. We go away, do a week of volunteering, giving back, being deeply immersed in a community while continuing on with the coaching. And then we usually have an adventurous or cultural experience. In this case, it was climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. And then we return home for more coaching, reintegration, and all of the good sort of juicy part of the what now and what's next with what comes up for people in our programs. Allison, like I said, joined us in 2024. So it's been just over a year since we had that big adventure. And so we'll just dive right in. Welcome, Allison. I thought I would just start with a very simple question. So, sort of, who are you? And sort of, where were you and what drew you to the UGO program back when you first signed up?
My name is Allison Bugner. I am 58 years old now. I'm not yet declaring myself retired. I'm in pre-retirement as a social worker. But what drew me to Jill and Hugo and the whole experience was the passing of my husband. He had a terminal cancer, multiple myeloma, which was a 7.5 year journey, pretty intense journey. So he was diagnosed at 49, died at 55. So that was pretty intense. For me, part of my healing was recognizing that this actually came across from an email of a friend, and I knew in my healing journey from the passing of my husband that I could either kind of stay safe and in my home and continue on, or I knew for healing I needed to get out of my comfort zone and do something quite challenging. And so I was really intrigued when my friend sent me the link to Jill, because David and I had traveled through Africa in our 20s. So I thought this would be a great bookend experience for me, and it was a complete understatement. It was awesome. So that's what drew me to Jill, and the rest is history.
Okay, amazing. So just share a little bit about what the whole sort of journey was like for you, from kind of going on to joining the coaching and then traveling abroad, and just sort of
Mhm.
what was your experience like?
The experience was amazing. The coaching journey, it took me a while, to be honest, because I was kind of still like in the whole healing process to get into it, if I must be honest. But it was an amazing experience. It was through Zoom. It was a great way to get to know those who I'd be with because I didn't know anybody. And then the experience was, and then obviously we had to get ourselves to Africa. And so that journey was, for me, very cathartic and very healing and very powerful. So it helped us, or it helped me, but as a group, and volunteering and immersing ourselves with the cause was fantastic. And Jill did a really good job of weaving some themes through our conversations, and it was just really so lovely to get out of your normal day living, immerse yourself into a world that is very different than ours, and be surrounded by a different community. Helped you then, sort of freed you up to begin to look at it and have some conversations with yourself. And then the journey of climbing Kilimanjaro was awesome for me. I was pretty focused as I brought some of David's ashes, and for me, I was really determined to spread some ashes of his at the top. But it was very, all in all, it was a cathartic process. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about others. There's just so much that you actually don't realize in the moment. And it's the after, when you're back home and you're debriefing, it's amazing, sort of what takes time to sort of sink in, um, and where the learning continues. And the benefit for Jill is the continuation. I think, from a coaching perspective, you sort of set us up and then we're there, and it's kind of helping us open up and begin the thought process, and then really solidify that change. And the learning for each of us was afterwards, is what my observation was. So to me, it's super powerful. I recommend it. It's not always easy, the conversations, but it's well worth it.
Amazing. What surprised you the most about the experience, either about Tanzania or about the people or about yourself?
That's a good question. I'll start with the people. You forget living. Well, so I live in Collingwood, Ontario, which is in southern Ontario, where we have a pretty privileged lifestyle. Everything is pretty easy, and we forget the easiness and the convenience of our society. So removing yourself from this and going into a culture where it's not the same, where we take for granted the fact that we can turn on a tap and have running water and have several showers and have lots of choice with food, where that is not the reality. I think you learn a ton, and with the culture, the value of the people, and just their comfort with living and dying and just sense of community. It just really helps you to begin to learn about how we live and about our world. And it just begins to ask you, or you begin to ask lots of questions of what's really important. And I may be getting a little sidetracked here, Jill, I know with the question, but anyway, having been I traveled extensively in Tanzania, and so going back to that environment was to me very cathartic, very empowering, and to really learn that money doesn't, bring you happiness, and their sense of love and joy and community and caring for each individual tends to be lost in our world. And it's so reassuring to see that again, and you can sort of find that again with it, and values that maybe were buried for you for a while become alive, and you're like, oh, that's really important. So it was a really good check, if that makes sense, into what's important to me, helping you sort of reframe. For me, going into the next stage of my life, for me, I'm recognizing that my world completely changed. It was a we, now it's a me. And how do I then live my best life? That whole experience and being immersed with a community, to me, was very powerful and helped me choose sort of key values of how I want to live my life moving forward. And then the experience of, was the question also about climbing Kilimanjaro?
Yeah, just sort of, was there something surprising? What surprised you?
What surprised me is that you can do hard things. The power of our mind is so freaking amazing. And when you think that you're tired, it's like it is the power of your mind, and that it reminds me not to forget that when things are tough, remember you can do hard things. And to me, that was surprising because we get okay. I can speak. You get comfortable in your life and lifestyle, and getting out of your comfort zone and just realizing, hey, I can do this. That we are strong and powerful was really, it woke in me, and it sort of defines who I am now. And I don't know if you're going to go to the fact about her personal mission statement, but like the experience with Jill and with this group helped to me to discover sort of my new goalpost. And in the end, I created a personal mission statement, and I had my core values, and I introduced myself. So I haven't, like, introducing the new me, what's really important to me, and is like how I want to live my life. And it is on my fridge, and it's one page, and it defines everything about me, how I go about my day, how I solve every problem, and my approach. So I think I would have been more robotic had I not gone on this trip. Going on this trip helped me to realize that, and to choose how I want to live my life and what's important to me and what's not, and to embrace that. So I'm forever grateful, because had I not done that, I think it'd be really easy just to go on and just to do things and but I feel, having gone through this shitty situation, I feel more alive now than I was before.
Wow. Okay. Well, yeah, I was actually going to get to that. I was going to ask sort of what would you say has been sort of the shift within you? What has sort of changed, or what did you sort of discover about yourself? And you hit on a few things. Is there anything else you wanted to share about that?
So I discovered tons. So just a little context. I am the youngest of four in my family. I have three older brothers. My father was, he had me when he was 43, he fought in the war. So a very male dominated family, very traditional values. And so I was brought up to be a pleaser. And that I was, as a social worker, putting my needs, obviously when my husband got sick, it was very clear my needs became secondary, being a mom, have two girls. And the biggest thing that I realized and learned was how to give myself permission to put my needs first, and to at the same time to try and honor also values that my husband and I had. And so how do I honor the we yet embrace the me, and not to feel guilty about that? Yeah, so, and that didn't really come to me, and that awareness to me, till long after I was back, and long after we actually were finished. And Yeah, I always talk about is that it helped me to stand in my power. It's a silly thing, but I feel like it's standing in my power. And whatever that power is, it's not like hear me roar. It could be hear me roar, but it is just basically saying, hey, this is important to me. And, respecting myself and asking and expecting others to respect and value me for me.
I love that. That's amazing. Was there a specific moment that was very either powerful or unforgettable in this overall experience?
There were a couple moments. One of the moments was when we were with the Masai Mara and having a celebration and having the conversation with the Masai Mara and the women who were there and asking each other about our cultures in our community and having conversation, just a really open conversation questions and helping them to learn about our culture and also learning about their culture. But through that conversation, like they were wondering why I wasn't married. And so sharing my story with them, with this group, then the leader of the community then said, well, when we were planting a tree, he then said we need to have a ceremony. So it was very touching and Jill, you remember. And I didn't want to make it all about me and my grief, but they were very respectful and so brought all the women who had lost their spouses and we had, as we were planting the tree, and I shared some of Dave's ashes, he's under a mango tree somewhere in Tanzania. And we had a ceremony, and it was very instantaneous, and it was just out of sheer love, joy, and respect of family. And to me, it was so powerful because I didn't speak the language, they speak the language, but through dance and through song and through translation, it was just a lovely moment that will stick with me forever. And Dave will help some mango tree grow somewhere. Then it was walking up the mountain, as Jill would know. So I was with another younger woman who was very powerful, and they called her Simba because like a lion. And of course, I was Mama Simba because got a few gray hairs. I'm a little older, but anyway, just the experience of walking up the mountain and passing and sharing my story with Port, and it seemed that everybody knew that I was trying to get up to the top of this mountain for this experience. And all these porters would pass me and they go, "Hey, Mama Simba," and they're like chatting away and didn't even know them, but they were like, "We're going to get to the top, Mama Simba." And it was just the sense of community that these individuals had and pride and what they were doing and they're carrying their stuff up the mountain. Just that sense of just community was to me very powerful. They didn't know me. They didn't have to, they weren't hired or paid by our company. They, out of the goodness of their soul and their interest in humanity, they just really were like, we're with you. Like it's a team. We're going to get you up. And yeah, so, just those couple of experiences. But to me, the Tanzanians have a lot to teach our Western world that we can learn a lot from actually be opening ourselves up and recognizing that, clothes and material stuff that means nothing really in the end of the day.
Definitely. Next question would be, how did you find being with a group? Like, how did you find that added to the program overall?
I think that it's really important because if you're going through transformational change and if you're opening yourself up to say, hey, I'm going to maybe ask myself some questions or have some reflection, being in a group and not being alone, I think gives you the courage to actually do it. And when there were some tougher times, there were some honest, some raw moments for us all. And I think the unconditional respect and of the group of why we're all there for different reasons. It's really powerful and comforting. I didn't know them at all beforehand, but the respect and the come up that we have for each other from going through this and having these conversations and sometimes just being holding the space with someone to allow them to be was so powerful. So I think it's really important. It's not to say that they're my best friends, but there's just a real you're not alone in it, and there's just mutual respect. So I think there's great value and benefit from not being alone. And I think you were able to give and receive in ways, in moments that you had no idea the impact of sometimes what you gave. You just was so powerful for the group members. So I think it definitely created safety to actually look deep and look within yourself and be honest and reflect. And I think, Jill, you need to give yourself some credit in that you set that up really beautifully and very respectfully. So I think that's not everybody could do it. So I do think that you create a lot of safety in being able to ensure the best learning for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Two just final questions. One, how did you find the service, the giving back and helping Dare Women's Foundation impacted you?
To this day, I think back and I was like, wow, we built a wash house with basically two trowels, shovel, a rake, and string basically. And I think about, oh my gosh, like in Toronto, like all the different machinery, whatever. Yeah, sometimes we complicate things in our world, and I think the simplicity of it and is really powerful, and recognize that these individuals, these young men, they were all engineers and they were all young men, they were so respected and valued, and their pride in their skill set and wanting to share this experience. So it wasn't just us like, okay, we're just gonna do a bit. Like we were in there with them, and they were teaching us, and we were in there building this. um, yeah, I think it's really important to be, being the learner, because for me and having a career and managing and, departments, etc., it was really good to reverse that role and say, okay, I am a learner here, so be open to learning and getting feedback and going, I have no idea, but we're building this. And so I just thought is really powerful. And I tell you, I don't look at a washroom different. I certainly look at it very differently now and appreciate that. And not to assume that just because they don't have things, that there's not intelligence, and they know how to build and what makes sense within the environment and the climate and the culture where they live. And not just to assume that because we can do it with modern machinery, it's better. Because truthfully, it probably wouldn't work. So yeah,
I love that.
it was great.
Awesome. And yeah, just sort of my final question is, what would you say to somebody who is considering joining us for a UGO Travel for Change program?
I would say you got to do it, because if you're thinking about it, your mind somewhere is open to, let's look at things a little differently. Just going on a little personal, having helped my love of my life, my partner, my life partner, pass and to die peacefully and respectfully, sort of made me appreciate that living is a privilege and breathing is a privilege, and how really important it is. In the end, it's not about things, it's about who you are, how you want to be. And it wasn't about how many like items. And I really feel if you want to live your best life, sometimes it's important that we stop and reflect and ask ourselves and go through this journey. And doing it in our comfortable world is not, you're not going to get the same out of it. To get out of your comfort zone, challenge yourself. It's only 2 weeks or whatever. It's amazing how you shift your perspective. And I don't think the same thing would be, you would have the same outcome if we just had the coaching sessions and went and volunteered within Toronto. You need to get out of yourself. You need to get out and challenge yourself and be uncomfortable to be, to learn to how to be comfortable again with yourself. Because I don't know, I came back and I'm forever a different person, and I'm trying to live without judgment and live with compassion and gratitude. But I see a lot of my friends aging and seeing them doing and being and not being robotic. And if that's what they want, I'm not, that is, but I don't know. I feel an obligation to try and be the best person I can, to learn the most, because my husband, who had so much living that his life was cut short, I feel an obligation to do it for both of us. And I think for me, it kickstarted how I want my next, like the what's next for whatever this journey is for the next decades for me. So I was like, have the courage, prioritize yourself, value yourself, and do it. You will not regret it.
I love that. Thank you so much. And I so appreciate you taking the time today to come and chat and share about your journey. I was so honored and felt it was a great privilege to be able to lead you and have you join us in Tanzania. And I am grateful. And as I always say, my greatest reward is one, the impact we make in the community, but also the impact that these programs make on those of you guys that join us and do the hard things and have the courage to look within and reflect and yeah, so I'm very, very grateful that you joined us for Tanzania.
My pleasure. I think we're brought up. My last little piece is that I think that we're brought up and we're socialized to do things, right? To do, be successful, do, but we don't learn how to be. And this experience helps you to learn to be. In other words, be with yourself, be with others. And that's where the real living happens. So I strongly encourage you to, if you're thinking, reach out to me. I have no problem having conversations, but to take the commitment, to take that jump and value yourself, because that's where the real like learning happens and where the real living happens afterwards.
I love that. Absolutely love that and totally agree. It's about learning to be who you are meant to be and taking
Mhm.
away the layers and getting to the essence of who you want to be and being intentional about how you want to
Exactly.
be living your life, what you want to be doing, and who you want to be. So I love that.
So I got my little one pager. This is me. It's on my refrigerator. And I can tell you it's for all the world to see. And if you don't like it, that's your issue, not mine. But I tell you that it is so empowering to have that up there. And so when life gets busy and you go, then you get straight, you go back and go, aha. And it gives you that foundation, that anchor of, how you want to respond, whatever your approach is. So we only have one chance at this world. So let's make the most of it, right?
I love that. Thank you so, so much, Allison. I really appreciate you taking the time today.
Anytime.